So with that in mind, I'm going to invite our first speaker. He's certainly looks younger than me, so I'm going to say he's a young man, but he's far more knowledgeable than I am. He's spent 8 years studying in Syria. Of course, as we know, the situation in Syria at the moment. And those that have been to Syria to study, I think have been very, special in their lifetime. He studied in Pakistan as well. He's a Hafiz, he's an Alim. He's a Mufti as well. He's had his degree in psychology recently. He's traveled the world speaking. So please welcome from your own hometown, Mufti Abu Layth, to come and say a few words. Is he here? He is here, alhamdulillah. Bismillah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna alhamdulillahi wa kafa. والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله عليكم ورحمته تعالى وبركاته. It's good to see you all here to share the knowledge and the experiences that are being brought here by many of these talented young people, and especially Imam Siraj Wahaj, the legend who we're all familiar with. Today, I'd like to share some thoughts with you on the topic of enjoining good and forbidding evil. A topic that is linked to the life of Malcolm X, but this in itself is something that really touches the lives, or it should touch the lives of each and every one of us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us in the Quran, Kuntum khayra ummah, that you are the best of nations. Ukhrijat linnas, that you have been taken out for people. Ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhawna 'anil munkar, that you call people or you command towards good and you forbid that which is evil. Tu'minuna billah, that you have faith in Allah. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ ummah, that let there be a people amongst you. يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ, they call people towards good, towards goodness. يَعْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, that they forbid and command where necessary the good and the evil. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, that those people, they are successful. We will come back to this verse because it is extremely important on what I'd like to share with you tonight. The understanding that there is an apparent understanding of enjoining good and forbidding evil. And first of all, I want to readdress the term enjoining and forbidding to encouraging good and discouraging, because that's really the capacity we have. There is a hadith that is transmitted by Ibn Abi Hatim, where the Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahaba, he said, كَيْفَ بِكُمْ إِذَا تَرَكْتُمْ الْأَمْرِ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَالنَّهِي عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, how will you be when you leave enjoining the good and forbidding the evil? So the Sahaba radiallahu anhum said, أَوَ كَائِنٌ هَذَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ, will this come to be, Ya Rasulullah? And the Prophet ﷺ said, وَشَرٌّ مِّنْهُ سَيَكُونَ, he said, and worse than that shall be. So they said, وَمَا شَرٌّ مِّن ذَلِكُمْ, what is worse than that? So the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا أَمَرْتُمْ بِالْمُنْكَرِ وَأَمَرْتُمْ عَنِ الْمَعْرُوفِ, that when you start to call people or command the evil and kind of prohibit the good. So the Sahaba said, أَوَ كَائِنٌ هَذَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ, will that be? And the Prophet ﷺ said, وَشَرٌّ مِّنْهُ سَيَكُونَ, and worse than it shall come to pass. So they said, worse than that. وَمَا شَرٌّ مِّن ذَلِكُمْ, what is worse than that? And the Prophet ﷺ said, فَكَيْفَ بِكُمْ إِذَا أَصْبَحَ الْمَعْرُوفُ مُنْكَرًا وَالْمُنْكَرُ مَعْرُوفًا. That how will you be when the good becomes evil and the evil becomes the good? There is an apparent meaning to this which many of us may have understood. I would like to perhaps present or at least provoke a new perspective or a fresh look at that. What does that mean when the munkar becomes the ma'roof and the ma'roof becomes the munkar? So with that in mind, this encouraging people to do good and discouraging, something we've seen in the lives of many, right from the Salaf to this very day and age, crossing right through people who have impacted us, including the likes of Malcolm X throughout his life. It has certain requisites to it. And I would like to break these down to 3 important factors. One is the requirement before you do something like that. The requirement, the requisite. The second is an aspect of centricity. That when a person is enjoining or encouraging or discouraging, who is it about? Is it about me as a person that I'm telling this person off? Is it about me? Am I the focal point? Because I shouldn't be. It should be for the sake of the other. The centricity shouldn't be about me. And the third aspect is the objective. That what do I aim to seek from me doing this? What is the objective? What is the purpose? Once again, is it just a buzz factor, just empowering myself? This is where we find the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ saying, ad-dinu nasiha. That it is good counsel, it is good advice. Let's take an example. One of the legends of this deen. I'm not sure if many of us are familiar with the name of Ata ibn Abi Rabah. Okay? A legend from the Tabi'een. Somebody who had his own school of thought. A student of Ibn Abbas radiallahu an. He was the scholar of Mecca in his day and age. Ata, Abu Muhammad. So in his time, the Caliph al-Maliki ibn Marwan has come to do Hajj. He's doing Hajj. There he is. Somebody tells him about Ata ibn Abi Rabah, so he sends for him. That, why don't I, since I'm here, I'll get a bit of advice and all. So Ata ibn Abi Rabah approaches al-Malik ibn Marwan, the Caliph of the time. And he shows him respect. He says, Ya Abu Muhammad, salamu alaikum, and so on. And he says, Ma hajatuk, ask me for something. Let me deal with your needs. So he says, okay. He says, ittaqillaha fi haramillahi wa fi harami rasulih. He said, fear Allah in His haram and in the haram of His messenger. The haram is the sanctuary, Mecca and Medina. So he said, okay, so he's listening. He said, okay. He said, وَإِتَّقِ اللَّهِ He said, وَاتَّقِ اللَّهَ فِي أَبْنَاءِ الْأَنصَارِ وَالْمُهَاجِرِينَ He said, fear Allah when it comes to the matters of the children of the Ansar and the Muhajirin. فَإِنَّكَ بِهِمْ جَلَسْتَ هَذَا الْمَجْلِسِ It is through them that you reached this station, this place you have today. So he said, all right. He said, اتق الله في ثغور المسلمين. He said, the Muslim borders that we have, the territories. He said, the people that are there, fear Allah regarding them. He said, وَتَفَقَّدْ أُمُورَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ Look into the matters of the Muslims. فَإِنَّكَ الْمَسْئُولُ عَنْهُ That you will be asked about this. So after listening to all of this, Abdul Malik says, okay, he says, Sa'af'al inshallah, I will do this. So Ata ibn Abi Rabah gets up and he's walking off. So he says, Ya Aba Muhammad. He says, you asked for these matters, but these ain't to do with you. Sal hajatak, ask something for yourself. And he said, Mali ila makhluqin min haja. He said, I don't have a need for which I have to turn to creation. And he walked off. And Abdul Malik, he said, Wallahi, inna hadha la sharaf. He said, that is honor. In other words, that is a don. The way he's done that. Let's take a look at that. The three things that I said. First of all, the requisite, the knowledge of what he's addressing. That was there. Secondly, was it about him? It clearly wasn't. Did it serve its objective? It did. Subhanallah. This brings us back to something which is very interesting, and that is that verse. وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. Let there be amongst you a people that call towards goodness. The issue here is, what is goodness? What is it? Because it's technically impossible to define. I don't know if you've ever thought about it. If you've ever looked into goodness, I mean, the philosophers have been struggling with it for over 2,000 years, so I don't think anybody here will be able to just define it like that. Because when people say, well, goodness is giving charity and doing this and doing that, that's enumeration of examples. That's saying, I ask you, what is a car? And you say, well, it's a BMW, it's a this, it's a that. That's not answering the question. What is goodness per se? People will struggle. You can't answer what is goodness. I mean, Socrates has dealt with this profoundly in his dialogues as collected by Plato. You'll see. So one way that Muslims have answered this, and the Jumhur, the majority of the ulama, they've based this on what is called the divine command theory. That goodness is that which Allah has commanded. Okay, this is known as the divine command theory. So we say because Allah has said do this, that is good. Because He said don't do that, that's bad. And that is the majority of the ulama, including the Jumhur al-A'imma. There is some ikhtilaf, but that's the main understanding that we're presenting. Right, so if that's what goodness is, it's what Allah has commanded, then this raises a critical question that we have to know what God has commanded. Like if you don't know what Allah has commanded, how can you be actually going out there saying, well, do this, this is good? An example is, let's say in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, you have, let's say, an incident where Umar ibn al-Khattab hears one of the companions reciting the Quran in a different way. He doesn't know, this is a famous story. He drags the person to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ says to him, relax, what he's doing is okay. Obviously, he didn't know at the time that that was okay. Another example, let's say there's an incident in the book of Tirmidhi where two companions had gone off traveling. One of them was injured quite severely that he asked the other person, I need to do ghusl, what should I do? And he said, yeah, do ghusl. And from it, he developed a serious infection which killed him. And when they got back to the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet told this person off. He said, why did you tell him to do that for? And he said, well, I don't know. He said, well, if you don't know, you should ask. You see this? So knowledge, when you are enjoining or commanding something, becomes an imperative. It is absolutely necessary. We have people, and the reason I'm raising this is only a few months ago, within the UK, we had some people, they were imprisoned over some things they were doing, especially in London. They were known as the Muslim Patrol. You've probably heard of them. They were going around enjoining the good and forbidding the evil on the streets. They were doing this. So they've been in prison now. But the thing is, They were thinking this, they are يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. What they were doing had no place within Islam. But they didn't have knowledge of what they didn't know. They thought what they're doing is absolutely accurate. But was it? Was this accurate? Telling people, right, okay, you better leave that alcohol alone. You two walking down the road, let's say that there was an incident of a non-Muslim man and a woman. Don't hold hands, let go of each other's hands and do this and do that. This is a Muslim area, so on and so forth. Let's take a look at some of the traditional examples. There is a fatwa from Imam Malik, the Imam of Dar al-Hijrah, transmitted in the book al-Mudawwana, and some of you are probably familiar with this book. In there, Imam Malik is being asked about the masail of talaq in this one particular section. And where did Imam Malik live? Where did he live? He lived in Medina. He is being asked that there are people in Medina who are non-Muslims, obviously, people of Dhimma, and this is how they get married and so on, and is that okay? And Imam Malik is saying, well, their marriages are up to them and so on and so forth. What's interesting is he is then asked a question. The person asks him that, what about, he says, if they are marrying incestuously, that they are marrying their mothers and their sisters. This is Imam Malik in the time of the Salaf in Medina. So Imam Malik says, لا يعرض لهم. He said that we don't get involved. And the person says, this is in the Mudawwana, by the way. So the person says, yeah, but they're doing this. I mean, shouldn't we kind of deal with this matter from our courts? Imam Malik says that if they come to us, then fine. He says, وَلَا أُحِبْ. He says, I don't like that we should get involved in their matters. And the person said, even if they're doing that, he said, if they see that as their way of life, he said, فَلَا يُعَرَّضُ لَهُمْ. Then Sahnun transmits from Imam Malik's teacher, Rabi'a, who says that إِنَّهُمْ قَدْ أُقِرُّوا, that these people, he's saying, you think that's bad. He says, وَإِنَّهُمْ قَدْ أُقِرُّوا عَلَىٰ أَكْبَرِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. He says, Islam has tolerated for them much greater than that. وَهُوَ الشِّرْكُ بِاللَّهِ. He says, that is that they commit shirk with Allah, we tolerate it. That the fact that they have this action, he says, مِن نِكَاحِ الْأَخْوَاتِ وَالْأُمَّهَاتِ, the fact that they marry their mother or their sister, much greater than that has Islam tolerated. This was in the city. Where is this being asked? In Madinatul Rasul. Imam Malik, does he have the power to implement it? Yes, he does. Is this not a great opportunity to stamp down? Yes, it is. Could he not say, أخرجوا الكفار من جزيرة العرب? He could. Does he? No. Was he a legend? Unquestionably. These things, they make us think. Once again, the hadith, when the good becomes evil and the evil becomes good, maybe it's talking about what our understandings are. That we actually believe we're doing something good. But we're actually doing something which is wrong. It's quite on the contrary. And the good in itself perhaps sounds strange to us. If somebody said that to us today, no, just let them be, we'd think, what the hell? It sounds strange. But that's what the hadith said, that bada al-Islamu ghariban, that Islam began strange, and it will return to that stage. Do not be kind of beguiled, or do not kind of be misled by emotions when people say these type of things. This is a responsibility for us to learn. Allah tells the messenger, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ. If you were harsh, they would have disappeared from around you. The poet, he says, دَعَنْكَ اللَّوْمَ فَإِنَّ اللَّوْمَ إِغْرَاءٌ. He says, stop all this blaming and doing all of these things. All it does is just makes matters worse. He says, فَقُلْ لِمَنْ يَدَّعِي فِي الْعِلْمِ فَلْسَفَةً. Tell somebody who claims to know what they're doing, that they've got this knowledge. حَفِظْتَ شَيْئًا وَغَابَتْ عَنْكَ أَشْيَاءٌ. That yes, you may have learnt a particular thing, but so many things remain hidden from you. That yes, but this, no matter what sometimes people are doing, this we have to understand. There was a person that Allah has told us about in the Quran who thought himself so mighty that he said, Ana rabbukumul a'la, that I am your greatest Lord. Ana rabbukumul a'la. Fir'aun. What does Allah address the prophets with at the time, the messengers? اذهبا إلى فرعون. Go to Fir'aun. إنه طغى. Allah is saying that he has crossed all limits. إنه طغى. فقولا له قولا لينا. Say to him a kind word. لعله يتذكر أو يخشى. Perhaps his heart might soften. Perhaps he may take heed. Allah knew, but still, this harshness. The poet says, there's an Urdu poet who says that is tarah saat nibhana hai dushwar sa, tu bhi talwar sa, main bhi talwar sa. That to do things like this, if you're just going to be as harsh like a sword and I'm like a sword, things just will not work. I need somebody that can understand. He's saying that somebody that can see the humanness of the situation. मैं फरिश्तों के सोहबत के लायक नहीं, हम सफर कोई चाहिए गुनाहगार सा. That I'm not worthy of the company of angels, but I need somebody that can understand the humanness and the concept of sinning. And this is where the Prophet ﷺ teaches us that kullu bani Adam khata', that all of the children of Adam are sinful. Wa khayrul khatta'in at-tawwabun. And it's interesting that the word that is used is khata' and not mukhti'. In Arabic, akhta'a means to make a mistake without intention. But khata'a is with intention. Qasdan. And the Prophet didn't say khati', he said khata' excessively. That this is what the nature of insan is. But they will turn back. But how do you do it? First of all, those things you have to have the knowledge. يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. They call towards goodness. They have to know what goodness is. Secondly, it isn't about them. Thirdly, it's about doing things in a wise way, the outcome. أُدْعُوا إِلَى سَبِيلِ رَبِّكَ بِالْحِكْمَةِ. That call to the path of Allah with wisdom. And this is something which is so needed at times. So when we look at that, and our history is full, Allahu Akbar, of so many examples. Examples upon examples, really. And in fact, I encourage everybody to really reconnect with our legacy. Beginning with the very recent, like we're learning about the life of Malcolm X, a legend of the previous century who has really contributed to the lives of many, and keep going back right up until the time of the Salaf. For us here within Europe, Al-Andalus, Muslim Spain, is full of examples and legends for us to learn from. But let me give you an example of how sometimes people in the past saw commanding or enjoining the good. The story I narrated to you at the beginning of Ata ibn Abi Rabah is actually transmitted by a scholar known as Asma'i. And he was a linguist, a scholar, an absolute like into his poetry and everything. And what happens is in his time, he was in the time of Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, and you've all probably heard of Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. Yeah, like he was the caliph of, one of the early caliphs of the Abbasi dynasty. Now, in his time, Abu Ja'far was really into all the knowledge, and he used to be into like learning about stuff and learning about fiqh and learning about poetry. He loved poetry. But then, you see, the poets then, obviously, they worked hard for their poetry, so they thought that, if they wrote a poem for you, you had to pay them. So he didn't want to really part with his money. So he's one of those that I don't mind the poetry, but don't really want to pay for it type of thing. So what happens is he puts out this claim that anybody who brings me a poem that I haven't heard of, right, with the condition I haven't heard of it, whatever they've written it on, I will give them the weight of that in gold. Sounds very enticing, right? We've got some poets here, Allahu Akbar, right? So the thing is, so poets got to it. They started working on it, started writing their poetry. Now, Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, what they didn't know is he had like a photographic memory. I mean, if you read a poem to him, he could just repeat it back to you just like that. So, and then in his court, amongst many of his servants and slaves, he had a slave boy that had the memory, like a solid memory, that if he heard something twice, he could repeat it back to you. And he had this one girl amongst his court that if she heard something 3 times, she could repeat it back to you. So what he would do is he would have them kind of waiting behind a curtain. And these poets would come, they've worked really hard, they've written this, come up with this poetry, this qasida, and he would say, yeah, na'am, iqra, and they would kind of say their thing. He'd listen to it. Like, it's beautiful. Go, but you remember the condition, yeah? I couldn't have heard it before. They say, yeah, that's fine. He goes, but I've heard this before. I say, what are you talking about? He said, look, I'll repeat it back to you. I've heard this since a while. Look, I'll repeat it. So you'd repeat it back. And then the person would think, whoa, wait a minute, I just wrote that. He said, you know what, let me convince you. He said, go call for that slave boy of mine, go call for him. So that guy who's waiting behind the curtain would like come round. And the first line of a poem is called a matla. So he'd say, have you heard of this poem with this matla? And the guy would say, yeah, I've heard of it. He'd say, go and read it. And the guy would read it. So the poet would be like, whoa. And he'd say, you know what? I don't think that's quite convinced you. Wait there. Go call for that girl. And she would be waiting behind the curtain. She would come forward and say, hey, have you heard of this matla, this poem? And she would say, yeah. He'd say, all right, go and read it. And she would read it. So the poet would be just astounded that, what the hell is this? What's going on? Like, I just came up with that. I mean, how the hell did they actually manage to... Damn. So that's it. He would go. So he wouldn't get no money. His efforts gone to waste. So anyway, this went on and on and on for a while. So all these poets have got together. So they've got together and they're kind of crying and, going, this guy's ripped us off and everything. And along comes Asma'i, who's a legend. He's a don in poetry. He comes along and he says, look, what's going on? And they say, this is what's going on. He says, seriously, is that what he's doing? He says, all right. I got this, don't worry about it. So what he does is he dresses up as a Bedouin and he goes to the courts of Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. And he goes, yeah, I'm a Bedouin and I've come with a poem. And he goes, but what's the condition? He says, the condition is I've heard this before, remember that? He goes, all right, cool. He goes, what do I get if you haven't? Whatever you've written on, it's weight in gold. All right, cool. He says, all right. He says, cool. He says, this is called Sawtu Safir al-Bulbuli. That's the matla. That Hayyaja qalbi al-Thamali. That means that the chirping of the nightingale has kind of moved my intoxicated heart. So he says, all right, go for it. So he says, Al-ma'u wa zahru ma'an ma'a zahri lahdil maqali. So he's listening, okay. He goes, فَأَنْتَ يَا سَيِّدِ لِي وَسَيِّدِي وَمُولِ لِي فكم تيمني غزيل عقيق لي قطفته من وجنة من لثم ورد الخجل فقال لا 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 وقد غدا مهرولي والخود مالت طربا من فعل هذا الرجل فولولت وولولت ولي يا ويل لي فقلت لا تولولي وبين اللؤلؤ لي والعود دندن لي والطبل طب لي طب لي والسقف سق لي والرقص قد طاب لي. He said, and just when you think it can't get worse, he says, وَالنَّاسُ تَرْجَمْ جَمَلِي فِي السُّوقِ بِالْقَلْقَلَلِ وَالْكُلُّ كَعْكَعْكَعِي خَلْفِي وَمِنْ حُوَيْلِلِي لكن مشيت هاربا من خشية العقنقل إلى لقاء ملك معظم مبجل أنا العديب الألمعي من حي أرض الموصل نظمت قطعا زخرفت يعجز عنها الأدب لي أقول في مطلعها صوت صفير البلبل. So Abu Ja'far's like, what the hell did he just say? His jaw has dropped right down. You're thinking, what the hell was that? All I got was Sawt Safir al-Bulbuli. I mean, so he goes, yes, yeah, Amir al-Mu'mineen. You know, what say you? Does that pretty much fit your criteria? He goes, all right, just wait there. He says, go call for that boy, see if he's around. So he turns up, he goes, have you heard of this Sawt Safir al-Bulbuli? I go, hell no. He says, all right, wait there. He says, go call for that girl. She turns up. He says, have you heard of this poem, Sawt Safir al... I ain't heard of Sawt Safir al-Bulbuli. So he's like, damn. All right, so I've got to pay this one out. So he says, all right then. He says, go on then, bring what you've written it on. He goes, yeah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, I'm a Bedouin, I don't really have much possessions. I only inherited a pillar of marble from my father. So I wrote it on this pillar of marble. And so he says, what? He says, you wrote it on what? Pillar of marble, he says, go on then. He says, but I need about 4 people to help me carry it. It's outside, by the way. So now, obviously, Abu Ja'far al-Mansur has to do that. So he brings it in, they weigh it, and it's costing him almost the entire treasury. So then, and he's got to hand it, and there's all these witnesses. He's thinking, boy. And so he gives it to him, and then somebody says, I think I recognize that Bedouin. That's Asma'i. So he says, that's Asma'i. And he says to him, are you Asma'i? Because Asma'i, they'd heard of Asma'i. I mean, he was a linguist. He was a legend in poetry. And he says, yeah. He says, look, you hid your identity from me and this and this and this. And Asma'i says to him, listen. He says, it's reached me what you've been doing to these poets. And he says, this isn't right. That this is their haqq, that these people work hard for what they do. It is a talent. And you deprive them. And he said, what I will do, he said, I'll give you this gold back. You can have it back. But you promise me that every person that has written a poem for you, that they will get their due. And he said, okay. He said, these people are my witness. I will do that. And he left, and this takes us back to that perspective. He could have landed with you're the Amirul Mu'mineen, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهِ, and those who do not govern or judge by what Allah has, then فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. He could have tried that approach. He was in the time of the Salaf. Did he? No. He went there, he in fact, almost you could say engaged. Was it about him? Did he have the knowledge? Was the objective correct? It did serve its purpose. Sometimes we have to go back to questioning and inquiring about what and why are we actually doing this. These are my thoughts for tonight. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us all the tawfiq to reconnect with this amazing legacy we have. And we seriously do have an amazing legacy. Jazakumullah al-khair for coming. Once again, I'd like to thank the people that have arranged this for bringing such, mashallah, esteemed guests. And we've got poets and the legend, Imam Siraj, here today. I'm somebody who is definitely and has served as an inspiration to myself and I'm sure to everybody here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them all. And Jazakumullah al-khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala.
Salam wa rahmatullah. Can you teach me that poem?
I will do.
Well, we're going to stick with poetry.